welcome everybody. Nice to introduce you to a new partner today in this new episode of PartnerTalk. Matthew, welcome.
Thanks, Emily.
So nice to meet you here.
Yes, yeah, you as well.
Matthew, you want to tell us something more about you yourself, your role, the company? Just describe what you do, which are your main industry sectors, the specialization you have in terms of AVEVA's products, etc.
Sounds great. Yes, so I'd be happy to. So I'm Matthew Vana. I'm Streamline Control's Director of Historians and Business Intelligence. Streamline Control, we were founded in 2011, and we are based in Calgary, Alberta, and Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So we are a system integrator, proud to be partners with AVEVA. We are very proficient and experienced within the AVEVA PI System, encompassing all parts from the support, projects, as well as commissioning of new systems, as well as AVEVA Connect. And we are also, we have been working with AVEVA Enterprise SCADA, formerly Oasis, since its inception. We are working for our industries, so we do work predominantly in the, being from Alberta, the oil and gas sector, the energy sector. I've been fortunate to work in that field now for just over 10 years. And we also do work in the other industries such as food and beverage, manufacturing, as well as renewables too.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Great. And how big is the company, you said?
So we are approximately 50 employees currently between Edmonton and Calgary. We do have clients covering throughout North America, from Texas to California to Kansas to east and west of Canada as well.
Okay, good. If you were to describe the value that you found in the partnership with AVEVA, something which is maybe rather unique to the AVEVA partner program or partner collaboration, how would you describe it? What was it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for AVEVA has been a great partner for Streamline, especially being able to support us through projects, through growing our organization and supporting from the great resources available, such as the AVEVA Partner Portal, where for joining our team, we're able to have our resources, have access to great training resources. Also, we also have our own AVEVA Connect lab, our own Pi lab as well. So it really adds a lot of value that we can demonstrate presentations to our clients, and it's really great to be able to show them those value adds. I've also had the tremendous opportunity in April to present at AVEVA World for Streamline and AVEVA to really showcase our partnership, our development partnership. And we were very proud sponsors of the AVEVA Pipeline Summit in Kananaskis this last fall. That was also another great AVEVA event, and we very much look forward to future AVEVA events and the support from our partners and our reps at AVEVA through our monthly reoccurring meetings, absolutely. Right. As well as our AVEVA resellers too, which are important partners for us.
Distributors, yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. You are supported by ISS, I believe, right?
Yes, that's right, yes.
Good. So if you were to describe in a short way how you are going, have you been able to address your customers' needs and pain points thanks to the AVEVA solutions? Again, what would you say? What would you tell the viewers today?
Well, with AVEVA PI Data Historian, there's been a lot of great opportunities where we work with organizations on really identifying business use cases and priorities. That PI is a great tool where we want to enable organizations to have the tools at their fingertips to really increase productivity and efficiencies for day-to-day operations. So whether that is plant KPIs, so key performance indicators, where they can use even those facility overviews day-to-day. If that information is readily available and they are able to use it and it saves them a half an hour to 45 minutes a day, and then you really look at the value of that, it's really increasing long term for productivity for organizations. Using AVEVA PI with advanced business intelligence tools really enables organizations for proactive review of events, things such as proactive maintenance as well in our experience. So there's a lot of value within the AVEVA PI system, even from sustainability and environmental or regulatory compliance section as well. We've worked with organizations to structure their data and reporting so that they can meet those regulatory requirements.
Great, great. So would you mind sharing an example of a project, a special project you're particularly proud of, if it comes to your mind, if you can share even the name? If you cannot share the name, it's fine. Just keep it in general terms and describe the public today. What have you done?
Yeah, absolutely. So a project that Streamline is very proud of and has been a really great client for Streamline over the years is Plains. So Plains, and they were all-American pipeline with Plains as well, based in Houston. So I had the honor to present with Plains on behalf of Streamline and AVEVA, our partner at AVEVA World in April. That was on the PI Convergence project that we actually completed for them, where we integrated multiple PI systems across all their assets between the United States and Canada into a centralized architecture. So this was a great success, and yeah, we look forward to our continued partnership with them.
Great. Thank you. That's really brilliant. Great example.
Thank you.
Talking about technology and advanced technologies nowadays, one of the buzzwords that we hear is artificial intelligence. You want to share something more about your opinion, maybe around artificial intelligence and eventually the plans Streamline has around artificial intelligence?
Yes, absolutely. So it is artificial intelligence. Looking at with AVEVA Connect is for AVEVA portfolio, where we're really reviewing the AI assistant, and even the latest, there's a beta release within our own AVEVA Connect lab that we're exploring, and demonstrations for clients, as there's a lot of interest in AI. Now, with that though, it's important for AI that it all starts with the framework, the structure, the standardization, and the governance of the data. So, and a really important, most powerful tool that can at times still be underutilized with the PI system is asset framework. And having an asset framework built out structure really is important to have that data modeled and structured so that in the future, let's say we're a process engineer, we want to look up a compressor. Well, if we have that data structured, Connect AI Assistant can find that compressor, the instrument tag, the information, manual information, and efficiently build quick dashboards and information so that an engineer, Natalie, it's available in a minute, instead of him or her spending hours to consolidate that information.
Definitely. Yeah. Great example. Thank you for sharing. This is really inspiring, I would say, also for the public today. Okay, so we are in Houston now. We are at Enable 2025. In short, what would you say about Enable? It was worth coming. Would you suggest other people to come? Any plan next year to repeat this experience?
Yes, thank you. It's been a great event. There's been a lot of really great hands-on labs, which has been a great experience to be able to hands-on and dive deep even to different AVEVA suite that maybe some, as we're all integrators and connecting and networking together, that it's a good way to dive into the technical aspects of those other AVEVA suites and portfolios, like the Prove It UNS architecture system platform that I was able to attend today, which was a great lab. And it's been really good, informative presentations, and always with conferences a great opportunity to network with your fellow colleagues and learn from each other, which is a big thing in conversations. Yeah.
Do you have plans after Enable? Do you have plans to bring back home office, I would say, the knowledge, the skills that you got during these 2 days, 3 days with us back to the fellow mates you have?
Yes, absolutely. Good examples would be going through the UNS presentations and labs and sharing that knowledge, and that's something that we can grow, and we can look at some of these other AVEVA initiatives as well.
In one word, and that's the last question for today, which is the single word that describes Enable for you?
Growing, I think, is a good term. Yeah, I think that's a good term.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like it, and it's unprecedented. Good. Great. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Annalie.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate your partnership with us. We are looking forward to grow it.
Okay.
Augment it. Thank you for being with us again today.
Thank you.